All right, we are live. This is Soundbooth Theater Live, and these are the cold reads of The Grinding by Matt Dinniman. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me while I narrate this. Hold on a second. Let me get this damn ringer off. I had the ringer off all weekend and missed a bunch of calls and all sorts of stuff. I don't know what is wrong with me. But yeah, anyway, I just turned the ringer back off after it only having been on for a couple hours today. But yeah, I hope you guys had a good weekend. I am really excited to get started on this audiobook because, it's been a long time coming. Um, Matt finally, I'm pretty sure we signed a contract with Matt on this one. We'll find out later this week. But yeah, I'm excited because this is a book that I think I read this a couple years ago, and I'm really into it. I honestly I'm into shorter fiction, right? Like novels that are 50,000 to 70,000 words are like my favorite size. Let me see. Share my screen here with you. This is the way it is displayed on Amazon. As you can see, there's no digital version. This is the only this is the page for The Grinding, out of print completely. No way to get this anymore unless you find Matt at an event and he happens to be carrying them. How quiet? How quiet is audio? Okay, not too bad. All right. So yeah, unless you find him at an event and he happens to have a few copies on him, and they're like, again, some of my favorite format. I love it when novels are like literally like dime store novels. Um, Size. But yeah, you will see where a lot of Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon and Dungeon Crawler Carl came from when you experience this audiobook. And this one is not going to Audible. This one is going straight to the Soundbooth app. Um, I don't know if I'm going to add other people to the cast. There's not a whole lot of female characters. I really, really, really want Matt to play one of the characters, who's actually two of the characters. Don't need no stupid name, says SBT app is so much better now. Thank you, sir. Yes, everyone who has tried out the app, please say something in the chat. Let us know how you feel about it. But that is where we're releasing this audiobook, which means it's going to come out a little bit earlier than we would on Audible. Matt Dinniman says no. Pretty sure it's in response to me wanting him to do the voices of a couple characters. Uh, yeah, already Water Kangaroo knows exactly which characters. Um, so many people are loving this app better. I think this is maybe Matt's calling. Like, I think this is why Matt was born, to play the twins in this book. Please, please let Matt know that he is needed for this in the chat. But it looks like he's in the crowd with us. So thanks for joining us, Matt. And yeah, this is more of a pure horror. It's still got a bit of a comedy element to it, but it's definitely darker than DCC. I'd say it's somewhere between Kaiju and DCC. The thing about Kaiju is it's much longer, expanded, it's more involved, there's more detail, there's more characters, there's more world building, so it's a much more complicated book. And Kaiju also goes darker and deeper and heavier. Whereas The Grinding, you don't really have much time to sit and think. Things just happen so fast. seems to be one of those Matt Dinniman uh, one of those tropes that Matt Dinniman likes is it happened so fast, you know. But the main character is a little Filipino guy. I don't think I'm supposed to have a Filipino affectation of any kind. He doesn't seem that like he's not written with an accent or anything. I don't remember him mentioning an accent. Uh, but Matt is here, and um, he can comment on the main character's voice as I'm going. I'm thinking he's gonna sound a bit higher pitched. He's pretty young, I think early 20s in this, but not like super high pitched or anything. He's not supposed to sound like a boy, I don't believe. Let's see. No, he's half Filipino. Grew up in Arizona, which is no accent. You hear that, Arizona? You have no accent, according to Matt. Everyone in the story is half something. Okay. So, kind of like a half Mantar. Okay. So I'm pretty much ready to go. Let's stop that screen, present a different one. Did I open it yet? I should have. Here we go. All right, and let me maybe this way. That's going to be better. Okay. Don't say those T for Arizona accent. The mountains. Fountains. 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 I see. Mountain, fountain. We'll see. We'll see how it all comes out. All right. Let's make sure we. Yeah. Chapter 1. Okay, here goes. So, Matt, do you have anything else you want to say about this series before we get started? He's in the chat. Watch for it, guys. Like I said, this is, I don't know, 50, somewhere between 50 and 60,000 words, I think. It's going to go by pretty quick. I think we're only going to have 2 cold reads for it, and the rest is going to be on Discord. So today, noon to 3, tomorrow, noon to 3, here on this YouTube channel, Soundbooth Theater Live. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe here so that you get those notifications. And when I'm done here, going back to the SBTL Discord, and I'll be narrating live in there. Hey, what's up, Jared Cannon? I'm about to leave to sign a bajillion books. Just don't fuck this up or you're fired. All right, cool. Matt says I shouldn't fuck this up, so that's what I'm going to attempt to do. All right, well, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Hopefully he'll be back to come in and tell me that I'm doing things wrong later. All right. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Let's forget all this fourth wall bullshit and get to the point. You're the reader, and I know you're there. We're supposed to pretend like neither of us exist, but if you're going to trust me, we can't start this off with our backs facing each other. My name is Adam, and I want you to look right into my eyes. This isn't going to be a one-way exchange. No, sir. It's not fair to me, it's not fair to Nif, and it's not fair to you. I'm here. You're here. And this is what really fucking happened the day they nuked Tucson. Oh, I'm sorry. Isn't that supposed to be Tuscan? All right, let me hear that back myself. You guys let me know how you felt about that voice. I know this. Farm Cheese says it's felt too quantum. Matt likes it. All right, so he doesn't sound too young to you? I can try some alternates. Let's try this one. Let's forget all this fourth wall bullshit and get to the point. You're the reader, and I know you're there. We're supposed to pretend like neither of us exist, but if you're going to trust me, we can't start this off with our backs facing each other. My name is Adam, and I want you to look right into my eyes. This isn't going to be This isn't going to be a one-way exchange. No, sir. It's not fair to me, it's not fair to Nif, and it's not fair to you. I'm here, you're here. And this is what really fucking happened the day they nuked Tucson. Listener. Okay. Does he know I'm pantsless? Cool. All right, I will try to do that while I'm... So this one's not as high pitched. It still has kind of that strained, a little bit of fry in there. Edwin says the first one is better, seemed more authentic. Okay. Yeah. There's this one voice I like to call my Duncan Trussell voice. I'm going to try that real quick, just in case. I don't think it's going to work, actually. Let's forget all this fourth wall bullshit and get to the point. You're the reader, and I know you're there. We're supposed to pretend like neither of us exist, but if you're going to trust me, we can't start this off with our backs facing each other. My name is Adam, and I want you to look right into my eyes. This isn't going to be a one-way exchange. No, sir. It's not fair to me, it's not fair to Nif, and it's not fair to you. I'm here, you're here, and this is what really fucking happened the day they nuked Tucson. Voice one is the best. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm starting over to do the... I like the drunken truffle. Okay, let's start from the top so that I can incorporate the listener versus reader part. You're the listener. Matt, what do you think about the actual production resembling a cassette? Like, take off the gate, maybe add some room tone, a little bit of tape distortion. Maybe have like the play sound, like the button of the cassette tape, the beginning of each chapter or something. Definitely at first, okay. And then and then just kind of like fade that away into the normal production that we usually do. Cool. All right. Let's do that. Chapter 1. Let's forget all this. Let's forget all this fourth wall bullshit and get to the point. You're the listener, and I know you're there. We're supposed to pretend like neither of us exist, but if you're going to trust me, we can't start this off with our backs facing each other. My name is Adam, and I want you to look right into my eyes. This isn't going to be a one-way exchange. No, sir. It's not fair to me, it's not fair to Nif, and it's not fair to you. I'm here, you're here, and this is what really fucking happened the day they nuked Tucson. Nif and I were there. We saw it begin. You may think you know what happened. You watched the news, followed the internet, and maybe you read that dumb book by the guy who wasn't even there, and that gave you this feeling like you know what went down firsthand. But you don't know. You can't know. Unless you were there too, you don't know shit. So, here's the scene. Yeah, Matt says maybe we can add a quick thing where someone finds the cassette or someone else hands it off. We can talk once it's done. I love it. Would love to do something like that. We're in a small arena. It's a roller derby bout. Tons of people, but the only important characters right now are me, my wife, Nif, and her cousin, Cece. Is it Cece or Cece? Cheche? I've not seen Cece spelled this way before. I'm used to CICI. That's what I thought. What is that? What is that? What is that? Asked Cece. She sat next to Nif and me in the stands, and she'd been staring hard at something for a while, her clove cigarette. She sat next to Nif and me in the stands, and she'd been staring hard at something for a while, her clove cigarette clinging dangerously to her bottom lip. Dude, it hurts so bad when you pull a cigarette off your lip that's been sticking there. Big honkin' Mexican chick. That's right. What is that? What is that? Yes, removed skin with a yes, I have done that before. I have seen the skin on the fucking butt. Oh. Noodle Dragon's talking about Andy for Dominion of Blades. I have talked to Andy about Dominion of Blades before. She has said that she's talked to Matt about it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that Andy even has talked about redoing book 1. So I don't know. Get Matt and Andy talking again, and something should happen soon. That's what I think. Would you guys start the Dominion of Blade series back over if we republished it on Soundbooth? Like what if Matt left the original version on Audible, but then Andy did a new version, and that one was exclusive to Soundbooth? Yeah, Matt, what if we did that? What if we had Andy start on book 1 again, and we got hype rolling again by having her redo them and putting them on our platform? And then, if you want, Soundbooth can like help with extra production, extra voices, whatever. I watched the cigarette, counting down to the inevitable dive of ash straight into the hair of one of the let's be edgy and go to the roller derby sorority girls sitting in front of us. Cece was a sturdy, box-shaped girl, a roller derby queen on and off the rink. Her derby name was Peaches and Scream, and everybody called her Peaches. Only me and Nif called her by her real name. About a month before, Cece's leg was busted in 2 places in a spectacular skates-overhead collision with the jammer. Oops. I've been in Cece's track the whole time. Oops. What about, hey, Matt, what about going to Grim Oak for a new version of The Grinding, like a new hardcover? Only me and Nif called her by her real name. About a month before, Cece's leg was busted in 2 places in a spectacular skates-overhead collision with the jammer for the Demon City Sallies. She now sported one of those casts that made her walk like a mummy. It forced a temporary vacation from roller derby, but my wife's cousin never missed a bout, and she wore that cast like a heavyweight championship belt. Ooh, that's them? I didn't know those special edition kaijus were them. Cece stood heavily. I'm gonna go check it out. What is that? She clomped her way down the stands toward whatever had caught her attention below. I looked at the ponytail in front of Nif and me. Not a single ash had fallen on the girl's head. I glanced to where Cece headed, but I didn't see anything. Damn, I said. What? Nif asked. I nodded toward the stairs. Your cousin is all worked up about something. What else is new? Nif said, twisting in her seat. She scratched her arm. My wife seemed more distracted than usual tonight. On stage, another scene played out. The halftime band, a local punk group, couldn't get the PA system to work. Feedback blared, and the crowd booed and threw cups at the bewildered band. This was the first time I had seen them, and I could tell they weren't used to the surly crowds. This was the first time I had seen them, and I could tell they weren't used to the surly crowds. This was the first time I had seen them, and I could tell they were used... This was the first time I had seen them, and I could tell they weren't used to... Fucking shit. This was the first time I had seen them, and I could tell they weren't used to the surly crowds. What? What? I almost feel sorry for them, Nif said, scratching some more at her arm. What's their name again? I asked. They all wore T-shirts with something handwritten on them, but I couldn't tell what they said from where we sat. The first word started with a P, the second a V. It doesn't matter. You won't remember. A scream perforated the stadium. Just like that. A scream, and the world changed forever. This was a scream unlike anything I'd ever heard. I thought maybe it was a cat at first. This was an unforgettable scream, high-pitched and piercing, sounding amplified even though it wasn't. One of those sounds that causes every person who hears it to stop and look with dread. I stopped. I looked with dread. It wasn't a cat. I hadn't seen where Cece went, but I saw her now. She stumbled backward on the track, tripping onto her ass, clawing at her face as she screamed. Her cast boomed when it hit the floor. She had something wrapped around her neck and on her head, like a mask. The pink and fleshy thing pulsated, a blob of living silly putty. As we watched, the pink color grew brighter, matching Cece's bomb. I have not been... Wow. I have not been narrating... I have not been recording that whole time. You won't remember since that. Motherfucker. Sir Randy Marsh asks, random question, but would you have any interest in a draft of lyrics for a DCC parody song, Secret Asian Man? Why not? It seems like Matt's not going to find it. A scream perforated the stadium. Just like that. A scream, and the world changed forever. This was a scream unlike anything I had ever heard. I thought maybe it was a cat at first. This was an unforgettable scream, high-pitched and piercing, sounding amplified even though it wasn't. One of those sounds that causes every person who hears it to stop and look with dread. I stopped. I looked with dread. It wasn't a cat. I hadn't seen where Cece went, but I saw her now. She stumbled backward on the track, tripping onto her ass, clawing at her face as she screamed. Her cast boomed when it hit the floor. She had something wrapped around her neck and on her head like a mask. The pink and fleshy thing pulsated, a blob of living silly putty. As we watched, the pink color grew brighter, matching Cece's bomber's jersey. The mask grew, covering more of her face. She screamed again, and a tendril of the blob snaked... She screamed again, and a tendril of the blob snaked its way into her mouth, cutting her scream off cold. This was not a typical halftime prank. Holy shit, no. Something was wrong. Cece rolled onto her stomach and twitched, the mass growing over the top of her head and down her back, covering the peaches on her jersey until the whole top half of her body disappeared. The ponytail and her friends screamed. The ponytail and her friends screamed. They ran, falling over themselves. "The hell?" I said, jumping to my feet. Nif and I looked at each other. We both ran toward Cece. Half the crowd rushed toward her, the other half away, and the crush caught us. I reached and grabbed Nif's skinny wrist, holding her close to me, and she wrapped her other arm around my waist, swearing at everyone, screaming for them to get the hell away. Through the crowd, I watched as a girl, Pandemonium, a pivot, and the captain for the Punky Bruisers. Through the crowd, I watched as a girl, Pandemonium, a pivot, and the captain for the Punky Bruisers, grabbed Cece's good leg. The moment she did, her body went rigid, like a goddamned Medusa statue. She fell to the ground, her hand still clamped on Cece's ankle. Other roller derby girls crashed into Pandemonium, and when any of them came into contact with her, they also froze. In a matter of 5 seconds, a glob of 30 people formed on the track and spilled over into the sidelines. The moment anyone touched the group, even through clothes, they became a part of it, frozen in place. I stopped dead. Still on the bleachers, I pulled Nif back. "Don't get any closer!" I yelled over the screams. "What the hell?" she said, trying to pull away. "She's my cousin, Adam!" She didn't yet see what was going on, but many had, and the fearful and confused now surged away from the track and toward the exit. I watched as the band's bass player fell to the ground. He kicked at a trapped girl near him. As he scrambled away, his foot slipped and his ankle became attached to her neck. Bandmates tried to pull him away, only to be caught themselves. Soon, a chain of bodies snaked across the track and into the middle of the center stage, with a dog pile around where Cece fell. By now, enough people had cleared away that Nif could see what was happening. Everyone continued to stream out of the small arena, and in the distance, a police siren wailed. "We gotta find a way to get to her," Nif said, pulling toward the track. I couldn't see Cece anymore under the pile of motionless people. "No!" I said. "We don't know what's going on! We don't know what's going on! The police are coming!" Nif was only 5 feet tall. She weighed 95 pounds, if that. I should have been able to hold on to her. If I had been stronger, if I had used both of my damn hands, if I had been more insistent and kept her away. You wouldn't be reading this right now. Everything would have been different. I would have pulled her out of that building. I would have gotten us into our car and driven away. But that's not what happened. I wish more than anything in the world it was. She twisted out of my grip, and she got away from me. She bounded down the stands toward her cousin. Next chapter. How's it feeling, guys? Y'all pumped yet? Hold on. Good call. Thank you, Rue. You wouldn't be listening to this right now. Excellent. Here goes, next chapter. One thing I really love about this book is how quickly the chapters run through. Chapter 2. I'm taking a dramatic pause right now because I have to tell you a few things before we get to the most fucked up part of this story. Like I said, my name is Adam. I am 24 years old, and I was 23 on that night last November. I'm half Irish, half Filipino, if such a thing matters. I look like a tall, dark-haired white guy, and nobody ever guesses I have anything other than purebred American in me. I look like a tall, dark-haired white guy, and nobody ever guesses I have anything other than purebred American in me. American. I look like a tall, dark-haired white guy, and nobody ever guesses I have anything other than purebred American in me. According to all the records, I'm dead. If you look at that memorial that alphabetically lists all the people who died that night and the following morning, you'll see an assload of Adams listed on... If you look at that memorial that alphabetically lists all the people who died that night and the following morning, you'll see an assload of Adams listed on there. I'm the third one. Nif and Cece are both on there too. Nif is listed right underneath me, but they put her as Jennifer. Everything you've heard about the grinder is bullshit. Pure, simple bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. Those college-educated bozos on TV who've written whole books based on nothing but the thousands of YouTube videos people posted after that night. I don't give a rat's ass about the Kyle Commission's initial findings. Kyle Commissions. Anyone knows, is that something he made up? Merc! In fact, the only one who came close was the crazy asshole on the 700 Club who blabbered about demons and abortion and gay marriage. And even he wasn't that close. Don't believe the reports that say it came from the science lab at the university, or it rose from the reservation, or came up from Mexico. They're all wrong. I was there. I saw the damn thing born. Most importantly, I know what it was. I know what it was. I know why it was here. You take every scary-ass theory from the past 6 months and you roll them into a ball to make the freakiest, most terrifying thing you can think of, and you still won't even be close. Oh, weird. He misspelled it. He spelled it K-Y-L... Yeah, I'm still not seeing it. But we'll get to that. First, I have to tell you more about Nif. I may be writing this in I may be the one telling this story, but she's the main character here. Don't ever forget that. This is Nif's story. Jennifer. She hated that name, so we all called her Nif. I won't say everything was perfect between us, because it wasn't, but at the end of every day, we slept in the same bed, we kissed each other goodnight, and we both thought that we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. We didn't have kids, but we had a ferret named Hamlet. Nif had tattoos and smoked just about anything available to smoke, and she was addicted to God, punk rock, and roller derby, in that order. She didn't compete in the roller derby herself. Her bones would have snapped like her cousin's leg the first time someone knocked her onto the floor. But she was friends with pretty much everyone involved in the local scene, and she never missed a bout, dragging me with her. Nif and I were in school together since the 10th grade, but we didn't date until my senior year, and not until after she had dropped out. We worked together at Big Shot Chicken. I was shift manager, well on my way to take over the chicken roasting world. Yeah, I was one of those guys. Straight-laced, did my homework, dotted my I's, and crossed my T's. I had watched my dad fuck up my family's world, and I was determined to do the exact opposite. It's funny. Nif had the same deal with her dad. The man was a genuine war hero, a pillar of society, the type of guy who won community awards and actually deserved them. The only thing he ever really screwed up was Nif. She hated him for it. To this day, I don't know what he did to make her hate him. I asked her once, and she started to cry like you wouldn't believe. I don't know either, she said. But by then, it was too late. This was at her mom's funeral, and her dad had been dead a year. The fast food gig for me was for my scholarship applications, so I could... The fast food gig for me was for my scholarship applications, so I could hold a job. My family wasn't rich, so I had to go through the whole financial aid and scholarship crucible. The college gatekeepers liked things like track team, honor roll, chess club, shift manager of a hole-in-the-wall chicken restaurant. For Nif, the job paid the rent on her shitty little apartment. She was only 17, but she lived by herself. Her mom had figured 17 was close enough and took off while her dad was out of town. He didn't even know where Nif lived, though he came into Big Shot sometimes to try to talk to her and give her money. She wouldn't talk to him, but she would take the money. I was a total asshole manager. I remembered Nif from school, but she didn't remember me, and that made me mad. It made me mad because she was one of those people you instantly recognized, someone you noticed when she was gone, and I had noticed when she'd dropped out of school the year before. For fuck's sake, I sat right behind her in Spanish 2 years in a row, and she didn't know me when she got hired. For fuck's sake, I sat right behind her in Spanish 2 years in a row, and she didn't know me when she got hired. She looked at me like she'd never seen me before. This one night, we were the only two closing up the restaurant, and I was chewing her ass for not cleaning off the tables in the dining room. This one night, we were the only two closing up at the restaurant, and I was chewing her ass for not cleaning off the tables in the dining room. I was ready to go, and she'd spent the last 10 minutes fucking with the radio because the DJ had promised to play a Bad Brain song. She was all excited because they never played that shit on the radio. I pointed out she had the CD sitting right there, but it didn't matter. It's different when it's on the radio, she said. She said. She said. Yeah, it's not as good. You know what? Go fuck yourself. People like you won't ever understand. Yeah, and people like you will spend your whole life waiting by the radio when you got the CD sitting right there. She paused then, just looking at me, noticing me. We'd known each other for 3 years. We'd known each other for 3 years. We'd worked together for 6 months, and I'd finally gotten her attention. I even felt a little triumphant right then. But then she opened her mouth, and both of our lives changed forever. You either fire me or fuck me. That's the only way you'll get me away from this radio, she said, leaning back against the wall. She pulled out a cigarette and lit it right there. But, I stammered. I was never bad with words. Except when I talked to her. I never even thought I liked her in that way until she said it. She wasn't my circle. She was unique, an anomaly. I never thought we existed in a universe where she and I would get together. I wasn't going to fire her. Maybe write her up, but not fire her. I couldn't even fire her if I wanted. I didn't know what the hell to say. I don't have a condom. I said. She laughed and took a long drag on the cigarette. She let the smoke seep out of her nose, and I swear that cloud filled the entire ceiling at the restaurant. Like a storm. Either you're a pussy, or you think I'm dirty. Which one is it? I was so out of my element. I don't even remember what I said. Oh, for fuck's sake, she said, putting down her cigarette. We fucked right there on the table, right where we make the chicken. I wasn't a virgin, not by a long shot. I'd spent my whole junior year in a highly dysfunctional, insanely sexual relationship with a girl from the chess team. Nif, however, was a virgin, and that blew my mind. She had what seemed like hundreds of boyfriends, a parade of them, all tattooed and older. They came into the store every day to talk to her when she was supposed to be working. Those guys were her circle. Those guys were her circle, but she'd never had sex with any of them. She chose me, seemingly on a whim. Just like that. I didn't understand. We didn't get together right after that. The salmonella! We didn't get together right after that. After that night, she pretended like it had never happened, and we went back to our old routine of me being the asshole and her being the unruly I-don't-give-a-shit employee. But as much as she pretended, things were different. Let's zoom a little bit more. But as much as she pretended, things were different. She stopped letting guys come over to the store, and sometimes in my peripheral, I'd catch her watching me. But when I turned, she looked away. Part of me wanted to never talk to her again. I had no plans on staying in Tucson, and I just knew hooking up with someone like her would keep me here. I knew what my friends would say. "Stay away from her. What are you thinking, man?" Nobody would guess we were a couple. At least not back when we first got together. I looked like what I was, a chess team nerd who corrected the chemistry teacher when he made a mistake. And Nif, she was a punk rock skater girl to the core, full of piss and vinegar and fuck you, even with her fine features like a porcelain doll you'd see for sale in the Sunday newspaper leaflet. Half Mexican and half white, she dyed her hair brown. Half Mexican and half white, she dyed her brown hair midnight black. So black it would blend with the night sky, and she was just a disembodied, glowing white face. She always wore these striped knee-high stockings and Doc Marten boots that weighed as much as she did. Everywhere she walked, her footsteps boomed, but she made it look graceful. When she walked into a room, you knew she was there. And when she ran toward her cousin that night, when everything was still contained within the roller derby arena, everyone turned to watch her run. That's just how it was with Nif. She moved, people noticed. I screamed for her to stop. She didn't. She got to the main scrum of girls, and she grabbed the back of a girl's jersey as if she planned to throw her aside to get to Cece. But as special as Nif was, she, like everyone else, wasn't immune to whatever this was. She froze, hands fixed to the back of the girl. I continued to scream, only it changed from stop to no. What could I do? That feeling of helpless horror, hardly 10 feet in front of me, was unlike anything I had ever felt. I wanted to run up and help her. I almost did, too. I took a few steps forward. Someone grabbed my shoulders, and if he hadn't, I would have charged right down there. But as much as it pained me to stop, I controlled myself after that first second. I couldn't help her if I was trapped too. I couldn't help her if I was trapped too. I didn't run. I couldn't leave her. I fell to my knees on the metal bleachers, crying out in frustration, almost falling forward. Nif stood there, paralyzed. I couldn't see her eyes, but I could see the eyes of some of the others, and they held nothing. They remained frozen, like mannequins. More people stood around me, equally horrified. I recognized some of them as friends and boyfriends of the roller derby girls. One man cried out and rushed down the last of the bleachers, and he grabbed at the group just as someone else tried to pull him back. Both of them became stuck, covering up Nif so I couldn't see anything but her cherry-red Doc Martens. The group of afflicted came too close, and if it grew any more, I'd be trapped. Crying and yelling, I ran across and down the stand so I'd have an exit at my back. The group of paralyzed people continued to grow, but more slowly now that the arena had cleared. As I watched, helpless, a cop ran in, a big, barrel-chested guy with a mustache. I'd seen him before. While the folks in the local roller derby scene were a friendly bunch, fights did break out from time to time that required a police presence. I didn't know his real name, but once the announcer had called him Officer Beefy... Officer Beefy Cakes over the PA as he entered the arena, and the name stuck. Whenever he came around now, the crowd would chant, "Beefy Cakes! Beefy Cakes!" and he'd wave. He stopped at the sight of the group, looked around in surprise.
What? What?
Don't touch them! Don't touch them! I said, frantic. If you touch one, you'll get stuck too. If you touch one, you'll get stuck too. You have to do something. My wife is in there. He talked into the radio on his shoulder. He backed up, taking me with him.
How long?
It just started a minute ago. It happened so fast. I told him what I saw, with the pink thing on Cece's face, but I said it so quickly I'm not sure he understood. I'm not sure he believed me.
Everybody outside,
he called. He tried to pull me with him, but I shouldered away, numb with fear. For her, for myself, but I wasn't going to leave her. Several of us remained in the arena, surrounding the group, just out of reach, all of us calling out names. It happened so fast. At one moment, the cluster was just that, a cluster of people. It all changed in an instant. The long tail-end line of people started to move. At first, it was a twitch, like a single snake or tentacle attached to the large, unmoving mass where Nif was. Then the line of people, 15 deep, rose impossibly into the air. It swung up into the stands, slamming through the onlookers. A guy got smacked in the face with the body of the guitar still clutched in the hands of the trapped musician. He flew across the room, crashing against the far wall. He crumpled to the ground, unmoving, as blood gushed out of his head.
Fuck,
the officer said, pulling his gun. He aimed, but he didn't have anything to shoot. The tentacle swung angrily in the air, back and forth, looking for targets. It picked up 6 or 7 more people, all at crazy angles, who swung loosely, except at the point of contact, as if a thick wire snaked through, holding them in place like Christmas lights. Outside, more sirens blared. The tentacle whipped toward the cop and me. I ducked as it whooshed over my head. The officer wasn't as quick, and his face smashed against the legs of a cop. The officer wasn't as quick, and his face smashed against the legs of a captured body. He lifted off the ground. I scrambled, crab-walking backward toward the exit, not looking away. The long tentacle lifted over the main mass and broke apart. People rained down on top of the group, reattaching at the top, turning the mass into a quivering ball of humanity. People rearranged themselves, moving in a strange, staccato manner, crawling sideways like flies on a wall. I watched in horror as the ball became tighter, a giant sphere several people thick. I cried out Nif's name. I couldn't see her, but she was in there somewhere, crushed against the others. People in the ball had obvious injuries, but their faces betrayed no pain. I wondered if they were dead, or kept alive by whatever force that was doing this. Suddenly, 6 shoots made of people sprouted from the thing. No, not shoots. Legs. Worst conga line ever. I love that. Oh, wait, did we start the... Go live, yeah, go live. Sorry, I forgot Instagram. Anyone on Instagram, sorry, meant to go live earlier. Always forget to do this because, Instagram's dumb, and for whatever reason, you gotta, do the whole thing where you, activate it or something. Sorry, guys. Meant to go live sooner. What's up? Hey, Metsky. Just narrating The Grinding by Matt Dinniman. So, everyone there on Instagram, thanks for coming. Really forgot to go live earlier. So, about an hour in. Wow, there's 480 people here. 480 people. Holy shit. So, are we just saying Matt likes balls? I think so. I think we ought to say that now. Matt likes balls. Everyone here on Instagram, remember, Matt likes balls. Okay. Let's get back to it. The legs lifted the mass of 60 or 70 off the ground like a giant bug. The heads and necks of the captured at the top of the legs worked as pivots, audibly cracking as they fell into place. The weight of the creature, and I was finally seeing it as a single, horrifying entity, pushed down on those being used as feet, and their legs buckled. More people crawled down the legs to add support on each side, shoring up where bones had broken. I watched as one zombified person gingerly removed the roller skates from a girl being used as a foot. The skates clattered to the floor. The whole creature lumbered forward, stepping across the arena track and toward the exit. I huddled in front of the monster like a rabbit, frozen, not believing what I was seeing. I almost puked right there. More officers rushed in, knocking me down. Like Officer Beefy Cakes, they stopped and gasped at the creature. That's when I ran. I stood and I ran. Even as I fled from the building and out into the rainy night, I felt empty and guilty for abandoning her. My overwhelming astonishment at the whatever the hell that thing was overthrown by the crushing, debilitating shock at losing Nif so suddenly. Was she in pain? Was she dead? I wondered what happened to the police officers. Someone's driving by. What's up, Octopus Prime? That's awesome. That's an awesome name. Just on Soundbooth. Biz asks, will there be sound effects for this one? I don't think so. I think, it's hard to justify because it is so short, and, I don't know how much interest there is, but hell, if we sell enough of the regular audiobook version, I don't see why not. It would just be a cinematic audio. Not an audio immersion tunnel. Not needed to be an audio immersion tunnel because I don't believe he's sold the movie or TV show rights to this one. I didn't hear gunfire. Which I was glad for. More officers pulled up, and the night filled with sirens and the wails of those who'd lost friends, including me, punctuated by the clatter of the rain against the corrugated awning at the entrance to the arena. I only ran a few feet out past the barrier when I was blocked by a line of parked police cruisers. I barely had time to turn around, look at the arena, and think, what the hell am I going to... I barely had time to turn around, look at the arena, and think, what the hell am I going to... Crash! The large double-door entrance to the arena exploded in a blast of wood, metal, glass, and stucco, showering out into the parking lot. Bits of glass and metal ripped through the air. I covered my eyes and stumbled onto the hood of a police cruiser. The creature barreled out of the hole in the arena door, moving like a cockroach. Screams of despair turned to fear as the thing passed near me and into the small crowd, snagging people and police officers before they even knew what was coming. Nope, happening. Screams of despair turned to fear as the thing passed near me and into the small crowd, snagging people and police officers before they even knew what was happening. Its 6 legs bogged down in clumps of frozen bodies. The front legs collapsed, and the thing fell forward, balling up like a 25-foot hedgehog, rolling right over cars and out onto... The front legs collapsed, and the thing fell forward, balling up like a 25-foot hedgehog, rolling right over cars and out into Grant Road. A small truck screeched as it careened into the thing, but the monster kept moving, showering the street with severed limbs and bloody clothes and tattered roller skates. A small truck screeched as it careened into the thing, but the monster kept moving, showering the street with severed limbs and bloody clothes and tattered roller skates. The ball hovered in the middle of the dark street for a few moments, tightened, and spewed dark blood from its top like a whale. The blood misted in the streetlights. The creature rolled west down Grant Road, picking up speed, leaving a crushed truck in its wake. The top was ripped off, the driver gone. A trail of body parts and gore smeared the street in its wake. To my left, a lone police officer popped off his gun. To no effect. I ran toward the road, passed through the cactus hedge, and stopped at the curb. I stepped on something in the dark, and I fell, catching myself on a bus stop pole. I looked down and saw a human hand, red and twisted like a dead spider, smashed into the curb. The monster was a couple 100 yards away, careening toward the intersection. It blasted through, rolling over more vehicles. The top of the beast hit a low... The top of the beast hit a low-lying traffic light, and body parts sprayed into the night. 2 of the ejected chunks looked like full people. They flew and landed hard in the middle of the road. Before I even knew what I was doing, I ran toward them. As I ran, the monster continued to roll down the road, going faster than I was. It swerved toward a Sonoran hot dog truck, packed with the Saturday night crowd. Sonoran... like the Sonoran Desert Sonoran hot dog. Okay. Lots of people on Instagram joining. Thanks for coming, all of y'all. Hope you're having fun. People screamed and scattered as it approached, but it caught at least another dozen victims before it veered back. People screamed and scattered as it approached, but it caught at least another dozen victims before it... People screamed and scattered as it approached, but it caught at least another dozen victims before it veered back onto the road and rolled west. I cried as I raced toward the intersection. With all the blood, all the body parts on the road, how could anything be alive? The first person I came upon was a girl, and she was dead. She lay face down in the road, her head bent at an obscene angle. Her left leg was missing, and her arms bent backwards and up. But just past her was a kid I recognized, though I didn't know his name. He was alive. He was alive. He was a Mexican kid, maybe 17 or 18, wearing nothing but jeans soaked black with blood. He'd been sitting near us in the stands, cheering for a girl on the bruisers. The kid sat up in the middle of the road. His right hand was a bloody stump, and the only finger that remained was his thumb. He gazed west toward where the monster had gone. I wanted him to be okay. I needed him to be okay. If he could become a part of that thing, be ripped off, and then be normal again afterwards, I would know Nif still had a chance. Hey! I said, running up. The rain was pouring hard now, slapping into the street, causing the blood to run and pool toward the side of the road. Sirens blared from every direction, and to the west a loud crash filled the night. More people came running from across the street, survivors of the attack on the hot dog truck. They surrounded... More people came from... Sounds like the garbage truck is here. Can't record with garbage truck here. Hey, what's up, Leader 88? I'm glad to give you the best part of your day. The best part of waking up. Sorry. Couldn't help myself. Matt Stagger asks, how much cooler would it have been if this was what chased Indiana Jones instead of a boring boulder? Yeah, like you said, way better. Way, way, way better. Yeah, fuck you, garbage people. 513 people here, man. This is amazing. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for calling me a goat. I appreciate it. Yeah, everyone on Instagram, don't forget this will be on the Soundbooth app. This will not be an Audible release. Exclusive to Soundbooth.app. So watch out for it as we're releasing it. It should take... We might be able to release it by early next month. Don't know. We'll see. Is it just pure experience, or do you use any visual aids to keep your tempo just right for narrating in audiobooks? I pretty much, it's pretty well ingrained in me internally. Sometimes I do listen to music, though, while I'm narrating. Most narrators can't do that, but I do like to. It tends to keep me pumped up. I don't know if we'll have pre-ordering available by tomorrow or not. Burritos, yum yum. Thank you for mentioning Lit RPG Con. Oh, slippery words. That's I think that's JD Blackmore. JD Blackmore? What? Is that right? Oh, so many author names. I'm so sorry. What what is wrong with me? JD Black Rose. Black Rose. Black Rose. Okay. Yes. She's talking about our production of Wrinkle and Crime, which is being narrated by Ryan Reed, and it's awesome. It's a great book, so I cannot wait for us to get that out. It's maybe this, I think it's this month, right? Joelle? Later, Rue. Yeah, Lit RPG Con is going to be awesome. I hope you guys can make it. I think we're pretty close. I think I've finished all my voices, at least, so. All right, the garbage truck is gone. Nope, still there. Yeah, Wrinkle and Crime is going to be on the SBT app for sure. More people came running from across the street, survivors of the attack on the hot dog truck. They surrounded the guy in the middle of the road. Hey! I said again, not wanting to touch him. Are you okay? Blood seeped from his hand. He didn't acknowledge me, and my heart sank. A Mexican woman stepped forward and wrapped his hand in a cloth. She talked softly to him in Spanish. More people stepped forward to help or talk. More people stepped forward to help or talk about what they'd just seen. Others wailed. I still hear that damn garbage truck out there. Hey, Camaro says that SBT on iOS seems to be fully accessible with voiceover. That's awesome. Yeah, we paid a lot of attention to that. We were hoping that would be the case, so thank you. If you are our favorite narrator, who is your favorite narrator? Annie Ellicott. Boom. I stood, numb, watching the boy as he gazed unwavering toward where the beast had gone. A man gave the boy his coat. The boy tried to stand, but people kept him down. Something's going on outside. I don't know what it is. People are fucking around.
I have to get back,
he said, his voice a whisper. He had a thick Spanish accent, and I wasn't sure I heard him right. Around me, the crowd grew quiet, the night air filled with his ragged breathing, sirens, and the light clapping of the... The night air filled with his ragged breathing, sirens, and the light clapping of the rain. I pushed forward, my heart racing. He's okay. What? What did you say?
I saw them,
he said, still looking west. Muddy tears or rain ran down his face. He tapped his chest with his bloodied hand.
Papa, they wanted me to stay.
Don't worry, man, okay? We'll get you some help. turned toward me, moving in slow motion. The entire side of his face was cut up like it had been dragged along the asphalt. His left eyelid hung on by a small patch of skin and sat glued to the side of his head by the blood.
I know you. You're Adam.
Yes, I said, stepping even closer. He emanated a strange, oil-like smell. We see each other at bouts all the time. He stared at me, then said something that made my spine chill.
Nif is searching for you.
I froze. What? What?
She's calling to you. Right now. They're calling you. I hear them here.
He patted his chest again. He looked west again.
But he's going away.
What do you mean? I asked. I became aware of how cold it was, but hope filled me. Nif was alive. Alive!
Maybe you shouldn't talk, dude,
another guy said to the boy.
We'll get you an ambulance.
A large crowd had grown around us, and a lady wearing scrubs underneath her jacket tried to push me aside to get to him, but I wouldn't let her. How do you hear her? Where is she? I asked, though I knew very well where she was.
The grinder. She's in the grinder!
The boy cried out in pain, arching his back. He stood, despite everyone trying to hold him down, and he took off down the street, headed west and calling out in Spanish. A few people gave chase, but gave up after he passed the curb. I didn't know what to do. Above, a police helicopter roared by, following the path of destruction. I looked around, realizing we were in the middle of the intersection, and a traffic jam had formed around us. A couple people honked, probably those who didn't yet know what had happened. I have to get to my car. Around me, the crowd burst into conversation. As I ran back toward the skate arena parking lot, I heard that word repeated several times. The grinder. All right, that's another chapter. Done. Chapter 3. Fuck! I didn't have my keys or phone. They were in Nif's backpack, and that was still attached to Nif. I didn't feel better, so I said it again. Then again, I pounded the roof of my El Camino. People milled around the lot, huddled together and crying. Several more police cars had arrived, blocking off the exits. A few cops stood in the destroyed entrance to the skate arena, but as I watched, they received a call and rushed to their cars, rolling off. 5 cop cars remained, all with pulsing lights, but no cops were left. She's calling to you right now. "Hey, man, where's Nif?" said a familiar voice. "Hey, man? Hey, man, where's Nif?" I looked up and glared. Scooter, one of Nif's old friends from when she worked at the record store. He saw my eyes and took a step back. "Oh, man," he said. "I didn't know. I didn't know." He took a drag from his cigarette. "That blows, man. Wow." I didn't like Scooter. I didn't like any of Nif's old co-workers from the record store. I don't know what Scooter's real name was, nor did I care. He was a short dude, maybe 5'5", and he had a pair of fuzzy dice tattooed on the side of his shaved head, which I thought was one of the stupidest fucking tattoos I'd ever seen. He was a talker, too. A guy who never shut up. He seemed to be everywhere we were. Concerts, roller derby. Once we even saw him at the zoo with his parents. He drove a big-ass Suburban with a skull and crossbones decal on the back. I looked around, but I didn't see it in the parking lot. "You got your truck here?" "Yeah. Yeah. Yeah." He dropped his cigarette and pulled out his keys, which were attached to a thick chain on his pants. He nodded across the street to the EG's parking lot. Sure enough, his old truck sat there, double parked. "You need a ride, man?" "You need a ride, man? You need a ride, man? You need a ride, man?" EG's? Is that right? No, EEGEE. Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be EG's. "Yeah," I said. I took off across the street toward his truck, and he followed. He didn't stop talking. "Man, this is some of the most fucked up shit I've ever seen. When that fat Peaches chick had that thing on her face..." "Oh, sorry," he said, remembering that Cece was Nif's cousin. "Anyway, I thought it was like a joke. I mean, didn't you? Remember last week when they set that dude's ass on fire? That was a joke. He wasn't even hurt or nothing. Anyway, I saw the thing before it happened, you know? I was on the floor waiting for the band to play, and I saw this slug thing." I was barely listening, but I paid more attention at that. "And she walked past me and started poking at this slug thing, and I had come up from a hole in the floor." "And she walked past me and started poking at this slug thing. It had come up from a hole in the floor. I thought someone had spilled a milkshake, so I didn't pay too much attention at first." I thought someone had spilled a milkshake, so I didn't pay too much attention at first. Then she ran past me, waving her arms like a chicken, and it was on her face. And I fucking laughed, man. I thought it was a joke. Then all that shit started. Oh, man, it's a fucking monster, isn't it? Like that Cloverfield thing, only it's made out of goddamn roller derby girls. In the distance, an explosion echoed, but I couldn't see where it came from. We ran to his truck, and he fumbled with his keys. He had to stand on the wheel to get the door open, but he got it open and climbed in. He looked down at me from the driver's seat. "So, where are we going?" "We're following that thing." His goofy, "this shit is fun" smile faded. "Are you crazy?" "Why?" "Why the hell do you think? It has my wife!" Scooter shook his head. "I'm sorry, man, but I'm not going anywhere near that thing. If it doesn't kill us, then the fucking Air Force will when they start dropping bombs." I pulled him out of the truck with my left hand and smashed him in the nose with my right fist. It was the first time in my life I had ever punched a person, and I'm pretty sure I did it wrong because my hand exploded in pain. He dropped to the ground, his head banging into the open... He dropped to the ground, his head banging into the open threshold of his truck. I put my foot on his chest, grabbed his keychain, and pulled until the belt loop on his dickies snapped. "Sorry, Scooter," I said as I climbed into the truck. and slammed the door. Scooter stood, holding his face as blood poured. Excuse me. Behind him, workers from the EGs stood wide-eyed. I felt bad, but then I remembered why I disliked Scooter in the first place, and my guilt eased. He screamed and pounded on the window as I threw the truck into reverse. He pulled out his cell phone, I presumed to call 911, but instead he threw it at the windshield and missed. "You're a fucking idiot," I said as I tossed the truck into drive and drove away. I had to get to the monster. The grinder, the kid had called it. I didn't know what I was going to do when I reached it, but I had to find Nif. If she was still alive, stuck somewhere in the middle of that thing, I had to find a way to help her. All right.
She's calling to you right now. They're calling to you.
We'd been together for about 1.5 years when she dropped a nuclear bomb in my lap.
"Adam,"
she said one night, out of nowhere.
"I had an abortion."
We were downtown, eating at the Nomery. A favorite haunt of ours because it was good, cheap, and open 24 hours. We'd become regulars, meeting up with our friends, sometimes at 3 a.m. Tonight we were the only customers in the entire place, but she said it right as the waiter poured more coffee into her cup. The poor guy looked at me, eyes wide, and fled. I just stared at her, my brain not processing her words. She might as well have said, "I've spontaneously grown a penis." My brain rebooted. What? When? More than a year ago. I got pregnant after that. More than a year ago. I got pregnant after that first time. I stammered. What? I always wore a condom, and she was on the pill, too. She insisted on the double protection. She was paranoid about getting pregnant. At that, she burst into tears, and words just poured out of her. I didn't want to fuck up your life. I was always jealous of you. I wanted to be like you. You were going to college. You were going to be somebody. But I knew you weren't some asshole that you would never leave me if you knew I had a baby coming. So I got rid of it. Rid of them. They were twins. I started to respond, but she kept talking. But you didn't leave, and I fucked up your life anyway. I went round to sit next to her in the booth and put my arms around her. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, I said. She sobbed and grabbed my jacket, burying her face. I love you. No. I love you, I whispered into her ear. I meant it, too. I don't care if you had an abortion. I wish you had told me earlier, but it doesn't change anything. You haven't fucked up my life. I didn't know what I wanted or who I was until I met you. You helped me find myself. She wrapped her arms around my waist and held onto me so tight it hurt. She cried and cried. Remember rule number 2, I said. She cried for a long time, and I didn't say anything else. She finally looked up at me, her face streaked with mascara. You either marry me or dump me. That's the only way you're going to get me to let go of you right now. That's the only way you're going to get... You either marry me or dump me. That's the only way you're going to get me to let go of you right now. So, I married her. We were both 19. We got into my car, drove the 450 miles to Las Vegas, and we got married by a black Elvis impersonator at the first chapel we found. We went to some government place to make it official, then we drove home and announced it to all of our friends. Sometimes I think about how things would have been if we'd kept the babies. Twins. Holy cow. We weren't ready. Hell, we weren't ready to get married either. But I think we would have managed okay. Nif thought about the babies a lot, too. It ate her up inside. By the time she was 20, several of our friends were having kids. I could see it in Nif's eyes every time she looked at one of her pregnant friends. She was thinking about what could have been. We both wanted kids, but we both wanted to wait until we were older and made more money. And were less stupid. Like with the drugs. I smoked weed, but not too often. I tried heroin once, acid 3 times, cocaine a number of times. I never saw the big deal. Then again, I never saw the big deal. Then again, I never got addicted. Nif smoked a whole lot more than I did. And while I think weed should be legalized and all that, I don't think anyone would disagree that you shouldn't be doing that stuff around a baby. So we decided to wait. We both had a lot of growing up to do, and we didn't want to risk screwing up a kid. We both had a lot of growing up to do, and we didn't want to risk screwing up a... We both had a lot of growing up to do, and we didn't want to risk screwing up a kid. As it turned out, Nif had more growing up to do than I thought. Meth. Fucking meth. Meth is evil. Meth is vile. If you do it, you're an idiot. Period. A couple years after we got married, Nif worked part-time at a record store. She started hanging around her coworkers after work while I worked late and went to school. It was 3 guys in particular, including that little fucker Scooter, who introduced her to it. That's how it started. We'd been together for 3.5 years by then. I was much less naive about drugs than when we first got together, but still, I had no idea she was fucked up on meth until it was too late. Nif was always a twitchy and scratchy girl, so I didn't notice an increase in that, but her energy... Nif was always a twitchy and scratchy girl, so I didn't notice an increase in that, but her energy levels were suddenly off the charts. She became hypersexual, and she worried less about birth control. She started getting mad a lot easier than normal, and she kept doing crazy, impulsive things, like tattoo a Smurf on her neck, or spray paint the living room wall of our apartment. Her dad had died a month before, so I figured it had... Her dad had died a month before, so I figured it had something to do with that. Her dad had died a month before, so I figured it had something to do with that. I should have read the signs. I was at school when I got the call. I was in a writing class at the community college, and my phone had been blowing up with calls. I ignored it because it was my night for people to critique one of my short stories. My teacher's phone rang too. When she answered, she looked at me and told me I was needed at the hospital. Nif was in a coma. A bad reaction to meth. Her temperature was way high, something like 105, and they were afraid she was going to die. Meth. Fucking meth. I couldn't believe it. But the moment they said it, it all made sense. They wouldn't let me see her. I kept thinking it was my fault. How could I have been so stupid not to notice my wife, the woman I slept with every single night, was fucked up like that? By 4 a.m., her fever broke, and she stabilized. The doctors were afraid she was going to suffer brain damage, but she seemed okay. I'd never been so scared. She woke up and was ready to take a visitor. I came in, and I grabbed her sweaty hands, and she held on to me with a vice-like grip, her eyes wild. Her eyes wild with fear.
I saw our babies,
she said.
I died, and I went to hell, and our babies were there.
She cried and talked at the same time.
They were boys, Adam, and they were in hell, and it was my fault. They said unborn children go to hell if their parents go to hell, and I was bad.
Shh, it was just a dream, I said. She looked so tiny, like a child herself in the large hospital bed. In the doorway, a nurse stood, shaking her head. I knew what she was thinking. Just another junkie.
so ashamed,"
she said. Her father had left her a ton of money, and I used a sizable chunk of it to send her to a residential drug rehab here in Tucson. I visited her as much as they let me, and she did improve, a little at a time, like that train going up the hill. I think I can. But fuck, it wasn't easy. She yelled a lot, cried a lot, blamed me for getting her fucked up, blamed me for not stopping her. What was supposed to be 4 weeks of detox turned into 6, then 12. She was released, but she struggled every single day with it. She still dreamed of them. The boys, she called them. I have to be good now. I have to get to heaven so they can go to heaven. It worried me, and I told her... It worried me, and I told her shrink the same thing. He didn't seem nearly as concerned as he should have been.
"Just be there for her,"
he kept saying. But it didn't seem like it was enough. I felt lost. The day of her rehab graduation, she almost seemed back to normal. We got home, and I gave her a present I had been promising for a while, a crazy-ass sable ferret named Hamlet. He would bounce around the house and steal her soda cans, and she would laugh and clap her hands, and everything finally seemed okay. But at night, things weren't okay. She had nightmares. Terrible waking up and screaming and clutching my arms so I bled nightmares about the boys. She never named them, because that'd make them even more real. Sometimes after the dreams, she would rock back and forth in our bed, clutching onto her old, stuffed alligator. "They're calling to me," she'd say. Then she'd look at me with those beautiful, impossibly large brown eyes and say, "They call to you, too." We're doing pretty good for just being on here for a couple hours and me dicking around a little bit. On to Chapter 4. Chapter 4. One sec. Just checking something. All right, it is 278 pages total, and we're on page 30, I believe. 35. So we're like an eighth of the way through. So when the Mexican kid with the fucked up hand said, "They're calling to you," it freaked me the fuck out. I didn't know what the kid meant by it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it as I careened down the road in Scooter's truck. This is not his first book, but it's an early one. I think he published it in 2013. Grant Road was impossible to drive where the grinder had rolled, so I took Pima, following the spotlight from the helicopter. The windshield wipers didn't work, and I had to drive with the rain pounding on the glass. I blasted the heater. My right hand throbbed with pain where I'd connected with Scooter's face, though it wasn't busted. Scooter had Operation Ivy's Hectic blaring on the sound system, and I turned it off to listen to the radio as I drove. The DJ talked to a breathless kid on his cell, describing what he'd just seen. The grinder wasn't on Grant anymore. It had cut south It had cut south across a residential area and took out the Loft movie theater on Speedway, reshaping itself to blast through the entrance and scoop up everybody within. The way they described it, it was much bigger than when I had last seen it, and it had grown legs again. It would go right over cars, peeling roofs off like sardine cans and snagging everyone within. The caller seemed to think it was a monster covered with people, not made of people. I pulled up to an intersection and the stoplights were out. I looked around. It seemed the power was out everywhere. Christ. I turned south, but the road was filled with abandoned and crushed cars. A group of people stood in the middle of the street. Oh, yeah, it came this way, I thought, and I turned and fought my way down a residential street to Speedway Boulevard, right where the grinder was supposed to be. Someone else was on the radio. At first, I thought it was someone who'd been at the scene with the Mexican kid. It wasn't, but it was similar. A woman had been knocked off the creature, losing her arm in the process. She mumbled something about the grinder and got up and tried to run toward it before she fell over dead. The next caller did nothing but scream. Yes, David, you can watch this later. From the beginning. The next caller did nothing but scream, "We had to repent." "It's the motherfucking rapture!" she cried. "The end of the world!" The DJ hung up on her. Not quite the one I want to use. Maybe this one. Shit TV, maybe? I continued down Speedway. It was easier to pass through the destruction with the wider road. The Loft movie theater was razed, power lines and smoking. Power lines and smoking crushed cars filled the street. The creature had devastated a row of grocery stores and Chinese restaurants. People ran down the street, and cars sped away from the direction I headed. I didn't have to drive much further before I found it. I gasped. It had more than quadrupled in size. The movie theater and restaurants were what had done it. The grinder had shaped itself like a spider, with 8 segmented legs, each made of scores of people. The bottom of the creature rose at least 10 feet high, with several legs, arms, and heads dangling in the middle. The damn thing had long surpassed T-Rex size. It lumbered toward the Sheraton Hotel near the University of Arizona campus, and its top cleared the 4th level. It casually walked up the side of the building. Human appendages shattered windows as it crossed over the hotel in a matter of seconds. It leapt off the building like a cat and crossed the street and trashed a Taco Bell before turning south down Campbell. It leapt off the building like a cat and crossed the... It leapt off the building like a cat and crossed the street and trashed a Taco Bell before turning south down Campbell, cutting into the University of Arizona campus. Groups of people in red shirts scattered, and gunshots rang out. But bullets did nothing to it. Absolutely nothing. I drove over the median and pulled onto the sidewalk just outside of the hotel. From the 5th floor, a bloody, naked woman hung out at the... From the 5th floor, a bloody, naked woman hung out the window, screaming, reaching toward the grinder. Holy shit, I said out loud when I realized where it headed. Saturday night. The university hosted a home game tonight. Not just any home game either. For the first time since I could remember, the U of A football team didn't suck ass, and they played their arch rivals, Arizona State. I'd never been a huge football fan, but even I had wanted to go to this game. The street vendors had been up for almost 2 weeks hawking t-shirts in anticipation. The game was sold out. Arizona Stadium capacity, 57,000. The police by now had figured out where it was heading and what it wanted. No longer was it the occasional gunshot. The gunfire transformed into a wall of sound as everyone in the city with a goddamn gun started shooting at it all at once. The grinder tightened into an egg shape, sitting on top of a packed parking lot off the road. It sat there as if it was thinking about what to do. 2 lines of police and random people with guns appeared on either side, one line blocking its approach south. 2 lines of police and random people with guns appeared on either side, one line blocking its approach south toward the stadium, the other across the street near the remains of the smoldering Taco Bell. Stop! I screamed at the gunman. Nif. But I knew they had to shoot. The entire outer layer of the monster was a pulpy red mass under the barrage of gunfire. It emboldened those with the guns. They closed in. Smoke rose from the lines of fire, and they marched like redcoats toward the beast. They shot from person to person. I don't know why. Maybe to put them out of their misery, or maybe they were searching for that one spot that would topple the whole goddamn thing to the ground. Only, they never hit that spot. In the distance, the stadium looked like a giant face over the university's stark buildings. It still had power, and the stadium lights blazed. From my vantage, I watched the panic in the stands as they all surged in fear at the monster. Despite the rain, the place was packed. Someone had sounded the alarm. Even from a half-mile away, I could see turmoil grow within as the confused masses filed out of the stadium. A car flew from the center of the grinder, landing on the front line of police officers, scattering them like birds. At first I wasn't sure what had happened, but then another car flew out, crashing against the grass. The grinder was somehow picking up the cars and hurling them. The last of the defenders on that side broke as the egg shape unrolled into a long, low-to-the-ground centipede thing the length of 4 train cars. It pushed forward, ignoring the gunfire at its back. I couldn't look away. Watching the grinder move was like watching one of those Asian contortionist ballets, but with scores of dancers. It would have been intoxicating under other circumstances. The bloody, pulpy exterior of the creature constantly recycled. Every part of it remained in motion as people crawled, rolled, or shifted to reshape and move the beast. Even the corpses continued to move. A headless body rose from the back of the centipede shape and crawled onto the back where most of the bullets now hit. The monster The monster shambled toward the stadium, raining blood. It took its time. Had it been injured in the gunfire? A big-ass yellow bulldozer roared up Speedway, passing by my position in the parking lot and almost clipping Scooter's truck. It blasted through the median and concrete exploded through the air. The gunmen stepped away to let it through. They cheered as it rumbled toward the beast. The dude driving that thing was either crazy or had balls of titanium, but he full steamed toward the The dude driving that thing was either crazy or had balls of titanium, but he full steamed toward the monster, cutting through the grass and the parking lot. He aimed straight for its tail end. The bulldozer raised the front shovel, and the driver jumped out at the last possible moment. The damn monster rearranged itself to let the bulldozer pass. 1 second it was about to get... 1 second it was about to get... 1 second it was about to get creamed, and then the back of the centipede split into several directions while the front rolled out of the way. The people on it, momentarily detached, rained down onto the creature to form again. The whole thing happened in a matter of a second. A head-to-toe tentacle, 10 deep, swept from the body to snatch up the driver of the bulldozer. As the tentacle retracted, the whole thing formed back into the centipede and continued toward the stadium, moving quicker this time. The bulldozer continued on its own, raging across the grass until it crashed into a wheelchair ramp and then the side of a brick building. The wall stopped it, but the engine continued to whine. The poor guy driving must have rigged it to just keep going. I felt so torn, so helpless. I pushed the truck further onto the road, keeping a safe distance. The monster had to be stopped. Of course it had to be stopped, but I also felt so relieved when it escaped. I just wanted Nif back. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who felt that way. What's up, David? Sorry, just reviewing the chat while I'm waiting for noises outside to stop. Do you have Q slides or the book? I'm reading from the book. I'm reading from a PDF. Do you always stand up, or are you still healing from the donut tattoo? I always stand. Above, a loud A-10 Warthog cruised low over the monster, barely visible in the dark. Above, a loud A-10 Warthog cruised low. Above, a loud A-10 Warthog cruised. Above, a loud A-10 Warthog cruised low over the monster, barely visible in the dark and rain. The nearby Davis Monthan Air Force? Is it just Monthan? Monthan? Monthan. The nearby Davis-Monthan Air Force Base was home to a whole shitload of A-10s, powerful military aircraft designed to kill tanks and other armored targets. They were the perfect aircraft to deal with this thing. When Scooter said I'd be blown up by the Air Force, he wasn't just talking shit. It was a real possibility, and I knew it. But this one didn't shoot, or drop a bomb. Either it was unarmed, or the pilot didn't want to kill a monster made out of people. He didn't do shit except circle for a bit, then headed south toward the base. The closer the centipede got to the stadium, the faster it moved. I watched as it disappeared behind some buildings, then it flew through the air and attached itself to the back of the massive scoreboard on the north side of the stadium. It pulled itself over, cascading like a waterfall into the field still filled with tens of thousands of people. I didn't see much of what happened next, but I heard it. The terror at the roller derby was nothing compared to the uproar at the stadium, and I was still a quarter-mile away. Again, I was so torn. If only the bulldozer hadn't missed. If only the A-10 had been armed with a bomb. If only Cece had minded her own damn business. If only... Even now, it hurts to let that fantasy live in my mind. Even for just a flash of a moment. And when I saw what crawled out of that stadium, I realized for the first time that there would be no happy ending to this. And when I saw what crawled out of that stadium, I realized for the first time that there would be no happy ending to this. No way. This was more than just a fucked-up monster trashing Tucson. This was the end of the world. All right. I think I can do one more chapter for today, and then I'll leave more for tomorrow. Part 2, Chapter 5. The End of the World. The end of the world. When I saw that thing emerge over the stadium walls, back into the streets of Tucson, I knew we were fucked. I was done. We were done. And by we, I mean everybody. You, me, everybody. So I gave up. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but that's what I did. I gave up. Just because I'm the narrator here doesn't make me a fucking hero. I was done. All I cared about in that moment was Nif, and she was either dead or trapped forever. I knew it to be true. So I backed up the truck and aimed it homeward. It took a long time to drive home, navigating around the disabled and destroyed vehicles that littered the street like crumbs. Even when I got to the part of the city the monster hadn't yet touched, it was still bad. People running away, or goddamn running towards the thing. I watched in the rearview mirror of Scooter's truck as the monstrosity rampaged through the south side of town, near the airport and the Air Force Base. Unable to bear any more. Unable to bear any more, I moved the mirror and turned off the radio. It was almost 10 o'clock by the time I got home. The rain had stopped, and the clouds dispersed to reveal a hazy sky lit by the half-moon and the fires of the burning city. I didn't have my house keys, but I got in through the side window. Inside, the first thing I did was open up Hamlet's cage and set him free. The ferret bounded outside. We lived near the edge of town, and I knew he'd be safer out there than in the house. I grabbed a beer from the refrigerator, and I sat down on the couch. I waited to die. When I was a kid, my dad moved us all over the country, following jobs and ridiculous dreams and whatever else struck his fancy. We ended up in West Virginia for a while when I was 10 years old. We lived in a rickety-clackety trailer on the property behind a plantation-style house next to deep, fairy-tale woods that spread for miles and miles. With no other kids nearby to play with and a whole summer before me, I spent my days exploring. I was a regular Mowgli for a while, swinging from trees and venturing through endless forest. The only other human I talked to was the old lady who lived in the main house. She fed me pot pies in her living room while she obsessively watched QVC. Sometimes it would rain for days straight, and I'd run outside in the Sometimes it would rain for days straight, and I'd run outside in nothing but my underwear and a pair of scuba goggles. I'd stick my face in the raging creek behind the house. and look for frogs and box turtles. I'd almost been swept away 100 times, but it was fun for me, and my parents never noticed I was gone. After the storms, temporary ponds formed in the deep woods, lasting 2 or 3 weeks until they dried up. I would spend hours playing with these ponds, building dams, digging holes to connect them, or just splashing around in them with my Power Rangers. After one particularly long storm, I found a large rain pond about 2 miles into the woods. After one particularly long storm, I found a large rain pod about 2 miles into the woods. It was filled with blobby frog egg sacs. I visited it every day until the sacs hatched, releasing thousands of teeny tiny tadpoles into the shrinking pond. Once I saw the tadpoles swimming around, I started to worry. How long would it take them to grow legs and hop away? I knew if it didn't rain soon, the pond would dry up and they would die. I wanted to move them to the creek. For that, I would need a bucket.
"You can't do that," the old lady said when I told her. "You'll either hurt them trying to get them into the bucket, or they'll die in the creek. It moves way too fast for such small creatures. That's why Mama Frog laid her eggs in that little pond. It's best to leave it be and let nature take its course."
I didn't want to leave it be. The closest regular water supply was that small stream just beyond our house, almost 2 miles away from the tadpoles. All the other rain ponds had dried up. Every day I filled 2 water jugs with water, trekked the long path to the tadpole pond, and refilled it to keep them alive. I fought a losing battle. Some days I'd make the trip 2 or 3 times, 2 miles each day. Every day, despite my replenishing of the pond, it got smaller and smaller. I prayed for rain. The clouds came, the sky rumbled, but it didn't rain. One Saturday, my dad woke me early and told me we were going fishing. I had been asking him for a year to take me, so I was excited to go. We never went fishing that day. We went to my dad's job site and spent the morning collecting hunks of metal. Then we drove 50 miles to a place where my dad argued with a man over how much he'd sell it to him for. Eventually, they agreed on a price, and my dad and the man went to a bar together. I was left alone in the truck until it was dark. And when my dad finally came out, he sat in the cab, put the keys in the ignition, and passed out. It had been a hot day, but it was a cold night, and I spent it shivering in the back of the truck under a blanket that smelled like oil and dog. I looked up at the dark and cloudy sky and prayed to God that it would rain, even if it meant me getting wet. Still, it didn't rain. I didn't make it back to the pond until Sunday afternoon. I lugged 3 water jugs out into the woods. It was so hard to carry them. I had to stop every few hundred feet to rest, and the trip took twice as long as it usually did. I got there too late. The tadpoles were dead.
The pond had dried up in the heat. It was my fault. I sat in the leaves, staring at the black, still muddy hole filled with the dead tadpoles. I could smell the green, mossy water, but it was all gone. It felt as if an elephant stood on my chest, crushing me. I wasn't even sure why I was so upset. I thought frogs were cool and all, but I didn't love them. Why did I care so much? I think it was that I felt responsible for them. I had made the choice to take care of them, and even though I'd tried my best, I had failed them. I fashioned a small cross out of some twigs and stuffed it in the depression made by the pond. When I got home, the door was locked and my parents weren't home. As I waited, it started to rain. I know, as ridiculous and ironic as that sounds, that's what happened. As I waited, it started to rain. I know. As ridiculous and ironic as that sounds, that's what happened. It rained. The old lady saw me outside in the downpour and let me in the big house. She microwaved a pot pie for me, and as usual, QVC blared on the TV. I sat at her table, soaking wet, stewing with anger. At first I had just been sad. I had prayed for rain, and it came. But it came late.
I hate God,
I said. Startled, the old lady looked at me for a long time and then said,
Why is that, hon?
So I told her. Only when it came out, I didn't stop at the frogs. I kept talking. I hated God because of the father he had given me, the father who never kept a promise but continued to make them. I hated God because I continued to believe everything my dad said. I hated God for giving me a quiet wallflower of a mother whom I hardly knew and who hardly knew me. I was half Filipino on her side, and I didn't know anything about myself or where I came from, and she never cared enough to share. The old lady laughed, surprising me.
Your parents love you, she said. I can tell. They're just not good at showing it. You have to learn to take care of yourself. You have to learn to take care of yourself, and that's all there is to it.
She stood and took the now cold pot pie out of the microwave and plopped it down in front of me. It was the first time I had ever said anything to anybody about how my parents treated me. Her answer wasn't earth-shattering or profound. Years later, I'd realized it was just an empty answer an uncomfortable adult gives a child when she didn't know what to say. She spent a few minutes watching me eat. Then she continued.
As for your frogs, goodness me, Adam, the Lord doesn't care about the beasts of this world. They have no souls. Their purpose here is to keep us alive and humble and happy. These tadpoles you tried to save. It was noble, but God wouldn't answer such a prayer. God doesn't see them. He doesn't care if they live or die. He doesn't care if they live or die. How could he? If he did care, why did he put the puddle there? That would make him unkind, would it not? No, he put them there to teach you a lesson. Maybe a cruel lesson, but it'll serve a purpose sometime in your life. When you care for something, I mean really care for something, it requires a sacrifice to do it proper. Now, I don't know what sort of sacrifice you needed to make to save them tadpoles, but it was more than you were willing to give.
It
was a deeper answer than what she had said about my folks. I wasn't sure I understood it, but it sounded important. It seemed like she wasn't talking just about the tadpoles, either. Like she had given me a puzzle to put together with pieces that didn't fit. Either way, her answer made me feel like shit. I couldn't stop thinking about that conversation now as I sat on my couch, mourning Nif. I grabbed one of my Rubik's Cubes off the table and I worked it without even looking. I did that often, when I needed to think. I owned over 20 of the cubic puzzles. One was always within reach, every room of the house, at work, and in the car. Some people chewed on their fingernails. I solved Rubik's Cubes, though it wasn't a challenge anymore once I learned how to work it. My keychain even held a mini cube, a present from Nif. I didn't like that one much, but I would never tell Nif. I could solve any 3x3 cube in under a minute. My record was about 15 seconds, though I'd gotten lucky that time. Outside, my neighbors talked in the street. One of them had a radio, and they listened and cried. Some drove off, screeching into the night, while others talked about it being safer here. Above, aircraft and helicopters streaked by. They were too late. The grinder was now a full-fledged Tokyo-destroying behemoth. It crawled into Arizona Stadium, a centipede, a giant monster. It lurched out, a mountain-sized destroyer of hope and faith. We had power at the house, but out my window the majority of the city looked dark. Fires burned everywhere. I turned on the television. Nothing but static. I don't know how long I sat and stared at the gray snow. My body felt numb, but my mind churned. I knew where I was, but I was so lost. It hurt just to look away from the static and think about anything at all. A distant explosion rocked the house, knocking a framed and autographed picture of Pee Wee Herman off the wall. The glass shattered when it hit the floor. It was Nif's, and she prized it. A moment later, the power faltered, but it came back. I stood and picked up the broken frame, and I stared at the inscription. Jennifer, I know you are, but what am I? Pee Wee Herman. That's my name. Don't wear it out. I never liked Pee Wee Herman much, but Nif loved him. He had been at some celebrity-filled fundraising event she attended as a little girl. That's when she got the picture. She said he was the only one who was nice to her.
It's funny, all of you guys hate that lady. I'm like, oh yeah, that lady's awesome. The old lady, yeah. The one who's like, dude, it's all good. Your parents are trying, they're just idiots. I mean, what advice are you supposed to give? Everything's gonna be okay? What you say? I've never personally, even as a child, been felt better when someone has said to me, everything's going to be okay. It's always like, okay, cool, you have cool, you have nothing to say. Great, thanks.
I clutched the broken frame. The corner of the picture had bent and torn in the fall. Glass had scattered everywhere. When she sees this, I thought, she'll be pissed. That did it. I cried. I cried like a damn baby, bawling and wiping snot on my sleeve. I felt ashamed. I had abandoned her. I thought of the guy driving the tractor that had failed to bring the monster down. At least he had tried something. I didn't know who he was, but I bet he had a loved one caught up in the beast.
The phone rang. Great. It was probably someone I didn't want to talk to. Maybe Nif's aunt, Cece's mom. I let it ring out. A minute later, it rang again. I sighed. She had to be terrified, not knowing what had happened, where her daughter was. She deserved the truth, as horrible as it would be to tell her. I picked up the phone and stared at the number on the caller ID. The phone clattered to the floor before I realized I had dropped it. It wasn't Cece's mom. It was Nif's cell. Boom. Yeah, but that wasn't her point. Her point wasn't you didn't try hard enough. Her point was, if it was more important, then you would have been compelled to do more. That you would have had the opportunity to do more about it. Okay, so that was chapter 5, part 2. That was part 2. All right, so where am I? I'm at page 51 out of, I forget what the total page numbers was. $54 out of 278. All right, so I'm about 19.5% through. So tomorrow I'm going to do another 20%. That's not what she was saying, though. That's not what she was saying, Noodle. Okay. So, yeah, tomorrow back at it. Another 20%. And then I think that I can finish this on Thursday because I'm going to basically double my output on Wednesday and Thursday. So, and those will be in Discord, but tomorrow is the last of the cold reads for this. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, our YouTube channel for anybody on Instagram. Instagram, I'll also try and stream here again, but I forget often, because Instagram is just a pain in the ass to stream through. But yes, 19.5%. So yeah, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Be sure to get notified again. After this week, I'm going to be out of town for another week or two, and then I'm coming back to do Chrysalis, books 6 and 7 maybe. So watch out, guys. Lots of narrating coming up. Be sure to tell people about this show, about this YouTube channel, and hopefully I'll be seeing you again tomorrow. All right, later, guys.